Hey, everybody, what's going on? This is your man, Big B, Brian Hanley. Welcome back to Steelers Almighty. We have got a good show for you guys today, man. We got our man, CJ. He is our quarterback guru, knows all about quarterbacks, studies quarterbacks, not only in the league, but also coming up in the draft. So, obviously, with the Steelers needing to get their quarterback situation solved, we're going to be talking about quarterbacks today. So, we got our man, Chris, here. First off, Chris, he is a senior analyst for Football Game Plan. Also, he's a member of the Football Writers of America. He also is a fantasy football analyst for Pix 11 in NYC, has his own podcast as well as host of Chopping It Up with CJ. So, first off, CJ, how are you doing, my man?
I'm making it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but I'm doing well. How about yourself, Big B?
Doing all right. Doing all right. There's a lot. Obviously, we've been talking about the Steelers quarterback situation for a long time. All off season, trying to figure it out. People are panicking because we don't have a quarterback. Let me just ask you this question, CJ. Today, as we talk, it's April 3rd. Should Steeler fans actually be panicked that there's nobody as far as who we think should be the starting quarterback as of this moment? Or is this a situation to where, yeah, you'd like to have somebody, but it's not time to hit the panic button?
So, two layers. Fans, don't panic yet. You got plenty of time during the regular season to panic about things not going the way you may want them or may not want them to. Also, you still have a whole thing called the NFL draft that's going to happen, and you never know what could happen. You could get lucky and someone could drop to you out of University of Colorado, but that's another story for another day. Don't panic too much. The brass of the Steelers should be panicked more than any fan at this stage.
Gotcha. It's kind of what I thought is that the brass of the Steelers. But then again, as I started this channel, it'll be a year ago on April 4th. And Steeler fans panic. It's like we panic. That's what we do. That's what we do. It's like, hey, if things aren't going exactly the way that we think they should be, we are going berserk. So let's get into this a little bit. So obviously there's an evaluation going on. Not so much an evaluation of Aaron Rodgers and Mason Rudolph. Those are the two quarterbacks. Obviously, Rudolph's on the roster right now. There's tons of talk that Aaron Rodgers is going to be here. Maybe he is holding out for another team. That's, again, different conversation for a different day. But kind of give everybody your evaluation of both of those quarterbacks at this point in their respective careers.
Sure. So I'll start with what they are as entities and then kind of how they attach to the Steelers. So we'll start with Mason Rudolph. He's made some really good strides and has actually shown up as a quarterback that has some value. He's not a franchise quarterback or even a starter. He is a fringe spot starter who does the job that you want from your backup quarterback. He is a good number two to have in there because he knows how to play NFL football at this stage, and he's probably going to help out outside of just on the field, the off the field stuff, in the classroom, etc. Aaron Rodgers at this point. Aaron Rodgers, if he disabuses himself of being Aaron Rodgers, can be a good quarterback at this stage of what he is. He's still trying to do the athletic stuff and roll out and do all these things that's not in his repertoire anymore. You know what he does have? Accuracy. You know what he does have? Timing. If he actually gets that going and does what Tom Brady did late in his career, Aaron Rodgers can be an actual viable low end starter in the NFL at this stage and would be an upgrade to what Rudolph is for a team. As far as they attach to the Steelers, Rodgers is not the quarterback that fits what Arthur Smith wants to do. Oddly enough, on a very low end, Mason Rudolph is. He can do the boot game, all that stuff that they want to do with a quarterback.
See, and that's my dilemma, CJ, is that because I've said this over and over that if Rodgers comes in, like the nonsense that we heard about Russell Wilson doing all those audibles in the Cincinnati game and Arthur Smith and him butting heads, if Aaron Rodgers were to do that and Arthur Smith had pushback, Aaron Rodgers is not going to listen to any of that. I feel like Rodgers is going to come in and while Arthur Smith will be the offensive coordinator, I feel like there's going to be so many wrinkles to Aaron to just basically to complement what Aaron Rodgers does well, there's going to be so many of those wrinkles that I don't know that we're even going to recognize for a lot of this, CJ, that this is really an Arthur Smith offense. You get any of those vibes?
If you've ever met Arthur Smith, that will not happen. There
Okay.
will not be a change to an Aaron Rodgers offense. I actually think if Cam Ward wasn't going there, he would have been a better fit in Tennessee as kind of a bridge. But Steelers country, I don't think that it's a fit at all because of how he would have to be utilized in this offense, and Arthur Smith's not going to bend. You need something built around Aaron Rodgers, and we know if Russell Wilson wasn't willing to kind of just go along with the plan, do you think Aaron Rodgers would
Correct.
go along with the plan? No.
Right. Well, and then that kind of switches to, Mason Rudolph. I mean, if Mason Rudolph is a better fit, are the Steelers just better off going with that?
At this stage, I think Mason Rudolph is the veteran they should have on the roster. I don't believe that they should bring in Aaron Rodgers, even though they're probably going to do it if he decides to sign. And then I would go with the youth movement. I wish they would have done a move that, if you want to get into it, they should have done, but now they can't. Uh, I thought they should send a day 3 pick for Joe Milton and get him in the building as well. But now he's in Dallas. So
See, I did that. I'm against Joe Milton. I don't like Joe Milton, and I bring up that Milton lost 2 jobs in college. He's not a very accurate thrower. He's never been a very accurate thrower. So even the year in Tennessee, Tennessee's offense is not a pro offense. I mean, all the receivers outside the numbers lining up, they stretch the field crazy, especially with the hash marks. With college being wider, it's not the same thing as the NFL. I didn't like Milton, and Steelers didn't like I said, they didn't send a late round pick to go get him. I didn't agree. I just don't like Milton. I get what you're saying, but I'm against Milton. I just don't think he's that good of a quarterback. But the one thing that I did like, Skylar Thompson's on the team. You brought this up as far as a backup quarterback. To me, and look, I went to Kansas State. Kansas State fans are probably going to be mad at me for saying this, but Skylar Thompson is not what you want in a backup quarterback. And it doesn't have anything to do with his ability. It's because every time he gets on the field, CJ, he's always hurt. It's like you
yeah,
can't be the backup, but then as soon as you get on the field, you get hurt. That is not what teams need in a backup quarterback, is it, CJ?
it is not. And I actually had a pretty solid grade on Skylar Thompson. He was a fringe. He was a spot starter. I think I
Yeah.
had a 78 or 79 grade. The issue is, apparently, I don't know what's going on with the Dolphins organization with quarterbacks, but anyone who touched the field couldn't play like 10 straight games.
Right.
So Thompson got on the field, immediately got hurt. So you're correct. You want your backup quarterback. If he can't stay in for 2 games, then why is he your backup?
Correct. Correct. Now he had a little bit of injury history at K State too, but yeah, that was my thing. I was like, man, we can't. Before anything went down, the Steelers signed Skylar Thompson. I was like, he can't be the backup because, again, as much as I love him because he went to K State, your backup can't be the guy that gets out there and after a game and a half he gets hurt. And that just doesn't fly as backup quarterbacks go. Um, Moving on. So obviously a lot of Steeler fans, and I mean a lot of them, want the Steelers. They either want them to take a quarterback in this draft or take one in next draft. I keep saying, we talk about 2026 like we think that it's going to be gold. We don't even know all the quarterbacks that are actually even going to be in the draft. So scrap 2026. Let's just talk about the quarterbacks now. What are your evaluation of the top 10 quarterbacks and give us your order down the list. This is your thing that you do of the top 10 quarterbacks of this draft, CJ.
Sure. So I decided I watched the games during the regular season, but part of that is watching them as a fan. Postseason, doing evals on the players, also talking to folks, and seeing how things kind of lay themselves out. I had 2 quarterbacks who deserve first round grades, and they're the 2 that are being considered for first round grades. That's Cam Ward, who's just a tick. He's got an 87 grade versus Shedeur Sanders having an 86.5. To put that into context, those are both not just first round picks, but those are franchise level quarterbacks. I do believe more in Shedeur Sanders than people are putting out there. To be honest, I didn't come up with this comp or this way of talking about him, but for the last 2 years, my guy Emory Hunt has been talking about him as the Black Joe Burrow, and I think they have a lot of the same strengths and weaknesses. With Shador being not as much of an athlete as Joe, but still, I mean, they're the type of guys you want. They're tough as nails. Yeah. Then there's a drop off. I have two guys grouped together after that, and that's going to be Jalen Milroe, who's got much more upside than the next guy, but these two are low end starters, and Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart actually would be the guy that the Steelers should look to, especially personally. It's a day 2 pick, but at 21, that's not a terrible pick. He's better than Kenny Pickett, period. So I wouldn't think it was an egregious move for them to pursue Jackson Dart, who would fit into an Arthur Smith offense. Think of Ryan Tannehill, but a little more physically gifted, to be honest. Then we're going to go with Quentin Ewers. He's a fringe starter type guy. He is, and a lot of these drafts are going to have these guys. So don't be upset that you don't have 5 or 6 starters in a draft. Getting 2 to 3 is really good.
Right.
Next up is going to be Graham Mertz, a guy who actually he improved quite a bit moving from Wisconsin, going to Florida. I think he stood very well and strong in the pocket before DJ Lagway took over. I thought Graham Mertz, before the injury, was actually holding up really well. So he would be my QB6. My QB7, Brady Cook, tough as nails. He's the type of guy that's going to come out. He's going to be that Andy Dalton type guy. There was nothing that he faced that he didn't try to overcome. He's just a little physically limited compared to the other guys in the draft. You're going to go with a guy like Dylan Gabriel. Again, quintessential spot starter backup guy. If Miami were to get him and pair him with Tua, one of those guys is going to be playing. They're going to be playing a lot alike. So I would like that addition. If I got him on my team as a backup quarterback, that would be wonderful. And then just to finish it out, a guy who everyone's talked about, Tyler Shuck. Listen, he can spin the ball. He's a perfect 7-on-7 quarterback. But if you don't like contact and you're 25, almost 26 years old, it's not going to get easier in the NFL. So I can't believe in that until he shows that he's fine with taking the contact. That's why I have him rated so low, because he can spin the ball. He can throw the heck out of it. And my last guy, Riley Leonard, complete opposite. That is one of the toughest guys in this entire draft. He just has a limited ceiling on his physical capabilities. He's a perfect backup, someone who would fit in well, let's say, in Buffalo with a late round pick.
Right. So, I've been on the channel screaming that I can't stand Milroe and I don't like Dart. The only reason I don't like Milroe is because obviously his athletic tools are incredible. You can't, I'm not sure how many quarterbacks we've even seen come out in the draft that has been as athletically gifted as him, but I don't like his throwing mechanics. I don't like him at all. I've seen it. And Jackson Dart just plays in a funny offense at Ole Miss. That's the only reason that I don't like Jackson Dart. It's, and I get that he is a good fit for Arthur Smith offense. That offense at Ole Miss, though, same thing, kind of what I talked about with Joe Milton. I'm just not sure I'm a believer in any of that. And I think Tyler Shough, obviously I'm biased. I'm a diehard Louisville fan. The one thing about it, you're right about his contact. And first of all, right or wrong, you're the expert, not me. He's gotten hurt. And there's no doubt that he has gotten hurt over his career at Oregon, at Texas Tech. That's been his thing. But it wasn't like knee injuries or shoulder injuries or wrist. It wasn't soft tissue or ligament damage. It's like a broken bone, which broken bones, obviously it's football. Bones break. That's the way it works. But it wasn't something that's going to be like, okay, well, his shoulder got blown out. It's never going to be the same. Or his knee was blown out. It's never going to be the same. It wasn't those type of injuries. His collarbone. If you're breaking those type of things, those come back and you can be just fine. Is that the reason that you're a little bit lower on him than what maybe a lot of other people are?
So the injury history itself, I'm not going to hold against him. To your point, they're not catastrophic injuries. They were just consistent injuries, to be candid. Right. Either you're going to take the contact and not shy away from it, or you're not. It's not going to get easier in the NFL. Unless he thinks he was playing the easy game to get to the next level and all of a sudden he's going to show it. That's what I don't have faith in. It's kind of my knock against Jackson Dart, who I think is a tough guy. He's willing to take the contact. The problem is he changes in some of those have to have it moments.
Yeah.
And I can't get that out of my mind. I cannot get that Florida game out of my mind where he tried to throw 3 interceptions in a row for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing that people keep forgetting about Milroe, and I understand, he had the widest variance of any of the quarterbacks. I do range of outcomes along with the different ratings that go into building my rating profile. And he had the lowest. He could be a camp arm. He could not make the NFL, or he could be a low level all pro. This guy is brilliant. He's going to put the work in. He won the academic Heisman. So people keep kind of breezing over that. That guy is truly brilliant. So he'll pick anything up. He's going to work his tail off. And even if he doesn't have some of the mechanics stuff down, that's why he's a developmental prospect. Someone that you don't, I'm not advocating for a first round pick for him. If you took him in day 2, I understand because of the positional value. But if you got him on your roster, you have to understand what you have. You have a 2-year project who could possibly be your franchise quarterback for the next 10 years after that. You have to treat him as such.
Gotcha. Here's the thing. Do teams, because I'm glad you brought up that point about how smart he is, because I think a lot of times that, not just him, but other quarterbacks in general, I think that gets glossed over a lot about how smart. For instance, like Shedeur Sanders, people talk about this and that, and I'm like, the one thing that everybody will tell you is his football IQ is through the roof. And through the roof. That's one of the reasons that he's so good, is because he can anticipate throws so much. And let me get back to Shedeur. Let's get back to him, because we did a on the big show that we have here on Steelers Almighty. Me and my guy Big G, we did a little ping pong draft, and we both did Steeler picks, but at 21, I had him dropping to 21 and the Steelers taking him. I thought, you know what? Because if he gets to 9, CJ, and he doesn't get drafted at 9, like, who else needs a quarterback that's going to be willing to draft a quarterback and just, I mean, you just start looking at the draft and you're being realistic. You're like, well, they don't need one. They don't need one. They don't need one. And you just go down and down and down. And it's like, well, the Steelers do. And not only do the Steelers need a guy, with what their plans are, he doesn't have to come in and start right now. If the plans, I mean, if Aaron Rodgers actually comes in, then Shedeur Sanders doesn't have to start right away, and he can sit back and watch, which is what everybody used to do for the most part. You get a quarterback, they sit and watch for a year, and then they come in the next year, which is always been weird to me, because the investment on quarterbacks used to be so high. You would think that they would put them out there early. Now that that's kind of flipped, and the investment isn't as high as what it used to be when you take these quarterbacks so early, you would think, well, why aren't you letting them sit and watch for a year or two so they can get ready? But they don't do that anymore. But I think if that happened, and I've been saying it, if Shedeur is there, now granted, here's my thing. If Kenneth Grant is there, I think the Steelers have to take him. But I don't think he's going to be there. And that's why we did the draft the way we did, because I'm like, I think Grant gets picked. If he's there, you take him. But if Shedeur happens to be there, CJ, I think the Steelers have to grab him.
I mean, you're right. Even Steve, I got a Heisman vote, even though I didn't qualify for it. McNair sat for 2 years behind. I think it was Chris Chandler back then. And the guy who might be the starter for the Steelers if he decides to acquiesce, Aaron Rodgers, took 2.5 years off to start his career. I don't think Shedeur gets to number 21. I actually had a hot take on Twitter, on X, whatever you call it now, where I said 2 quarterbacks would go in the top 5. I believe that. But if he does get to, let's say, 13, 14, the Steelers, if they want him, they have to do something that they're allergic to doing, trade up.
Yeah.
And the reason is, that there's a team that would consider doing it because this guy's not going to play forever. I think the Rams would jump up and take Shedeur, knowing that they got 1 more year of Matt Stafford, and they're not a dumb organization.
They are
so
not.
They need to go get him if they want to get him in the mid-teens.
Yeah. And the Rams are willing to give up picks for the people. They're like, they don't care. Hey, if we want, like, they traded picks to get Jalen Ramsey. I mean, they'll trade picks to go get football players if they believe that it's going to help their franchise. So you're right. That wouldn't be something. Heck, they gave up picks to get Matthew Stafford. So
Yeah.
they're not against doing what needs to be done. You're right. They're not a dumb franchise. And maybe it's a wish and a hope and a dream for the Steelers to get to 21. Here's the other thing about it is, you've heard Deion Sanders say several times, there's probably about 3 or 4 franchises in the top 5, in the top 10 that he's not going to let his son go to. I think the team at number 2 would be a team. Again, we're not going to name them. I think everybody knows who's picking second. I think at number 2, now granted, they're talking about taking Abdul Carter. Okay, great. But there's a few teams that I don't even think that Deion's going to allow his son to go to in the top 5 and definitely in the top 10. Does that hold true for you?
I will say this. I don't think Deion would pull a full Manning. I don't think he would pull a full one. I think he has preferred destinations because he wants to protect his son and he wants to make sure over anything. You can have cities that aren't ideal. Like Green Bay is not an ideal vacation city. But if you
Right.
have a well-run organization, that's what he's more concerned with. And the team picking at 2, maybe they haven't run things as well as some of the other teams in their division. So he would prefer for his son to go somewhere where they actually have a chance to run it well.
Gotcha.
And I don't think he's going to stand away. If his son went number 2, he would get up there, he'd champion his son and say he's going to take over that town and the new stadium that they're talking about building like 5 years out and make sure that they're a winner. So, end of the day, I do think that there's going to be kind of an itch. Quarterback is the position that no matter what, there's got to be, you have to have some serious flags in your tape, which Shador does not have. He's got some labor throws. He has some holding on to the ball too long. Again, that was Joe Burrow's problem. Held on to the ball to make sure a big play happened. And by the way, for the people who want to judge his tape and say he missed throws in 2024, go look at 2023. There was concerted effort to get Travis Hunter the ball whenever possible to get him the Heisman this year. Go look at his 2023 tape. Looks different. So I think teams will realize how good he is on tape. And if he's a mid-range starter, 10 to 15 in the NFL, that is not bad. That can win you games and get you far in the playoffs, maybe even win you a Super Bowl.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'll get you out of here on this, CJ. Give us the top 3 quarterbacks for 2025 season that either are the best fit. Let's just say the best fit would be the best situation for a Steelers season, if that makes sense. Who are the 3 quarterbacks? And it can be anybody. It can be from Aaron Rodgers down to a rookie. Whoever you think are the top 3 quarterbacks to be on the Pittsburgh Steelers for them to have a successful season this year.
Sure. So without trades being part of the package, I'm going to start with the number 4 is Aaron Rodgers because he's Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
Number 3 is Mason Rudolph, not because he's going to win you a bunch of games, but he fits in there and he can run that offense. 2 and 1, number 2 is Jackson Dart because, again, he does fit in. And if they're able to get him at a value, if they're able to get him by jumping up in the second round, if they have to take him at 21, it's a little rich, but I think he fits what Arthur Smith wants to do. And then number 1 is Shador Sanders if they can get him because he's just a better quarterback than any of the other options I just talked about.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've kind of been on record. I'm like, and I say, look, all the Rodgers stuff, it is what it is. He does not a fit for the Steelers, for that offense, but I think he's a good quarterback because he's a better quarterback than Mason Rudolph. I mean, he just is. Because I think the Steelers can win games with Mason Rudolph. I don't know if it's really long-term sustainable, but I think they can win 9 to 11 games with Mason Rudolph as their quarterback because everybody, this will be the year the Steelers don't win, and they keep winning. So until I see it, I'm never going to believe that it's not going to happen. Now, granted, I don't really care that much about Mike Tomlin's 500, over 500 streak because when you don't win in the playoffs as a fan, I could care less about the regular season at this point because I always say, look, if you could qualify for the regular season and win 0 games, but you can win me a playoff game or 2, I would take it. I go, at this point, that's where I'm at, CJ. And I think a lot of Steeler fans are there too. So, what you're saying is you think that the better fits for the Steelers for this year and moving forward is going rookie. I was there. I like Rodgers more, but I like that approach. Is like, look, if you're going to get a quarterback in this draft, take one now, take the best guy that's available. I'm with you, and just roll with that guy. Let me ask you this. And again, I said I'd get you out of here. This will be my last question. Compared to 2026, because there's a multitude of Steeler fans that just say, nope, build up the roster, go draft the guy in 2026. Because everybody's itching for Arch Manning. And I'm like, hey, pump the brakes. Arch Manning hasn't even started 5 football games yet. I go,
Yeah.
we don't know, exactly what he looks like. Because I saw him play against Georgia, who had a lot of NFL guys, and he didn't look good in that game. But is it better to just get your guy now if you think he's the guy, CJ, or should they wait for the next season?
So hope is the number one thing that fans turn to when they don't think that they can win. And Arch Manning, I think, is uber talented. But you know what? To your point, and it's the point I've been making, can we see that young man actually start a full season or even half a season before
Yes.
we anoint him as anything? We've seen what happened to the generational talent that is Trevor Lawrence. So instead of waiting, you can wait all you want to. If you miss this year, it's okay. You can come back next year and draft another guy. You want to try to get the best opportunity possible while you have the chance. And if that's Jackson Dart, I don't agree with it in the first round, but take him. If he doesn't work out, guess what you can do next year? You'll have a first round pick. Take another guy. And there's top end talent next year in the draft that's eligible, but we don't know if they're all coming out with NIL working the way it does. Right. And if you go look back, prior to being the number one pick in most of these drafts, the year prior, those guys were off the radar. Joe Burrow was a 4th or 5th round pick the year before he destroyed the SEC. Right. So let things play out. Take a guy now and then let it play out next year. And if you get a better opportunity, do it then.
Right. And we've seen it in recent history. I mean, the Arizona Cardinals are the perfect example. They drafted a guy 10th. Very next year, they said, nope, we're not. And I always say this, CJ, and I'm sure you'll appreciate it. It's one thing to make a mistake. Nobody's perfect. It happens. It's another thing to live in the mistake. And
Bingo.
if you live in the mistake, well, that's your fault. Everybody makes mistakes. Nobody's human, or everybody's human, excuse me. But if you live in that mistake when you don't have to, like Arizona said, nope, absolutely, Rosen is not the guy. We're done. We're taking Kyler Murray with the number 1 pick, and we're getting him out of here. Heck, the Steelers did it. They took Kenny Pickett, and they said 2 years later, they're like, absolutely not. This is not the guy. We got to get him out of here. So it can be done. It absolutely can be done, and I agree with you. If you think this is the guy, take him. But if he turns out not to be, okay, because it doesn't set your franchise back like it did in years past. Everybody's, if you miss on the quarterback, it sets you back 5 years. No, it doesn't do that anymore. Not anymore. I go, before it used to. Yes, you were right, because the financial investment, it crushed you. It doesn't crush you anymore. So you're able to do those things. I like that. I like that approach, CJ. I'm glad you brought that up, man. Again, man, let everybody know. First of all, thank you for taking the time to join us today. Tell everybody again where they can find you and all the good stuff that you're doing.
Sure. So you can find me on, whether it's on Spotify, Apple Pod. You can find my podcast, Chopping It Up with CJ. Right now, what we're doing is looking at the free agency period, and pretty soon I'll start releasing all of my ranked players for this draft by position. Come into the football season, you can see me if you're in the tri-state area of New York doing fantasy coverage for Pix 11. And then I'll be popping around, making sure that I don't stay buried in the sand over the summer. I will be available on multiple mediums with some of the gentlemen I worked with through Football Game Plan as well. So you'll be able to see my above average face across a lot of mediums.
Absolutely. Well, the one thing that I know for a fact is we will be calling you as soon as all this Steelers stuff, the quarterback stuff gets all figured out, whatever it is, we will absolutely be calling you and having you on again, man. So I want to thank you again, and we appreciate your time today, man.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on as usual.
Let's go to the poll question, though. So, all right. Who do you think should be the Steelers starting quarterback in 2025? It's just that straightforward. Pretty simple. A, Aaron Rodgers. B, Shedeur Sanders. C, Tyler Shuck. D, Mason Rudolph. E, Kirk Cousins. Ugh. F, Jackson Dart, or G, Will Howard? A lot of names, people. A lot of names, a lot of possibilities. Lot of possibilities. But who do you guys think should be the Steelers starting quarterback? Again, once you have your selection, make sure you put the number 3 behind what letter that you want to select. That way we know exactly what poll question that you guys are answering with that. So appreciate you guys. You all do a really good job of that, so I appreciate it. So let's move on.